Thanks, Harry read that, dear. You're listening to a proper podcast. It's the Alan Hudson podcast. It's proper football, proper team.
Hello again. Welcome to the Alan Hudson podcast. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're enjoying the holidays and enjoying a cracking festive period. We've got a Christmas gift for you today. A player, well, this fella, only one player in the history of Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club made more appearances for that club than this fella here. He played nearly 600 games and scored over 100 goals. He also had the pleasure, if you can call it pleasure, of playing with Mr. Hudson for a year at Seattle Sounders. But before we get on to him, I know Alan's got some another message for the people that haven't yet subscribed to our podcast. So, Alan, over to you.
Right. I've been told to do this as part of my job, not talk about football, but to get you to subscribe. This is Tony's job I'm doing now, so I should get paid for that. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast, please do so. We need your help. And you subscribe to where?
It's the Alan Hudson podcast on the YouTube channel.
Very good. So you heard it from Tony's lips. Thank you very much. And then you'll get more shows like this. This is going to be a Christmas cracker. Thank you. Over to you, Tony.
Absolutely, Alan. Well, let's introduce him. It is, of course, Mr. Kenny Hibbett. Kenny, thanks for joining us today.
You're very welcome, Tony. You're very welcome.
It's great to have you on the podcast. We've got to start with the spell you and Alan had together at Seattle in America.
Yeah,
that's good about that.
Yeah, well, it's I always admired, and I'm not saying it because he's there and we're doing the podcast with Alan, but I was a big admirer of him when I was playing for Wolves, particularly when he was, at the big clubs. But having played with him in Seattle, he was a better player than I thought he was. He was a fantastic player. And I love playing with him in Seattle when he was on the pitch. He was a type of midfield player that always wanted the ball, found yourself in trouble, and you only had to look up and Alan was there. And he made me feel at home. He made me feel comfortable while I was out there for 3.5 months. With a lot of other English players out there at the same time. But Alan was the man that stood out for me, always has done.
Tell us about the other English players that were out there at the time.
Well, Stevie Daly was one. I used to play with him at Wolves, as you know, and Ray Evans, and a couple from Nottingham Forest. Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, we had big rub, but it's all started with the Derby contingent, didn't it? With Roger Davis, Jeff Bourne, and them kind of players. David Nish was a great player, from Derby. He was one of the best. I think he should have been a regular in the England team. But it's funny you say that, Ken, when you're talking about myself. I've always said, football supporters, when football supporters talk to you and they go, oh, he's a good player and he's a good player and he's a good player. I said, well, hang on a bit. How many times you played with him? How many times you played against him? You don't really find out how good a player is until you play with them.
Well, that's what I found out, Alan. That's what I found out with you, mate. It was
ditto. I told Tony, and I've told a lot of people. I think I wrote in one of my books. I said when we were in the under 23 together as kids. I think maybe once we're playing against you at Wolves and everything else. And it's certain players catch your eyes, certain don't. And certain players you want to play against, certain people you don't. Every time I played against you, I think, God, it's going to be a tough game. He's a good player. But I didn't realise until I played with you how good you really were. I mean, I was trying to explain to my son yesterday, who sends his love. He was the one that tried to console you in San Diego.
Oh yeah.
He said you were sitting on the sofa after the game, absolutely distraught, and he was only 11, and he loves you. He loves you, and in training and all that. And he went.
Let me just interrupt a second. You've got such handsome features, but we can only see half of them. Make sure you're on screen. That's better.
Well, I was looking at Kenny, talking to Kenny. But it was, he said he couldn't console you. He said, and he turned around to you and he said, He might have got beat today. He said, but don't forget, you got us here. You was the one that got us here. We wouldn't have beat Fort Lauderdale if it weren't for you. So, you know, it's tough one to take getting beat in the final. And I put my performance down to that playing on a baseball field.
Yeah, it was.
That shouldn't have been done because I got bad ankle. I said to Ray Evans for the game, I'm going to not come short to you today, mate. I said, I can't go on that base. The diamond. But anyhow, Al always tells me that story about you, and he loves you. He said, you know, well, you was unbelievable that year. When you said 3.5 months, it was incredible. But you stole the show that year, and it's such a pleasure to be on the field with you. To tell the truth, you know, well, I've seen players come and go, Ken. You know,
yeah, they do.
And, you know. Yeah, anyway, you're the guest today, so.
But it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being asked to come on with you, mate. I really appreciate it. And yeah, when we got to Seattle, people, the players like yourself and the experienced players around me looked after us really, really well because I had my 2 children with me and my wife, and it was something different that we were facing. But the fans and I mean, in the end, we were getting nearly 30,000 people, weren't we, watching?
Yeah.
And of course, I was quite fortunate in the fact that you know, he's scoring the winning overtime goal in both legs against Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale, and I think Brian Kidd was playing for them, wasn't he? So I was very fortunate that it all came to fruition. I went there to be successful, and the players around me enabled me to have that, you know, pleasure of being successful. And we had a great bunch of lads, a great mixture of Americans and English players.
Yeah.
It was an incredible ride for us, and my wife and the kids loved it, and they still talk about it now.
Great place. It was a great place then.
For anyone that doesn't know, just tell us what year you got to the final and give us a flavour who might have been in the Fort Lauderdale team.
Was that 81, 82?
It was 82.
82. As Ken said, I think Brian Kidd played. The year before we played them, they had Cubilus, who we beat them 4-0 down there. But for half an hour, he tore us apart, and luckily enough, he didn't score. But and then they had they had Rocky Ray Hudson.
Yeah,
come from Newcastle. He went over when he was 19, his first season as you maybe. He went over there for out the season and never come back.
All right.
Well, it was Fort Lauderdale, was it? Fort Lauderdale or Newcastle, wasn't it? So what do you think?
The choice.
And he had a great life. He became the superstar there.
Yeah.
I think the year before as well, Gerd Muller. Did Gerd Muller play that night?
I can't remember playing that day. I don't think I was there that day, Alan.
No, I mean the night of the final. Did he play that?
I see. Yeah, I think he did.
The semi-final.
I wasn't really interested in them. I was really interested in the game and winning the game, and I didn't know who we were playing against most of the time.
What are you trying to say?
I'd only been there a couple of months, but we had some great lads, and everybody worked hard to achieve what we did achieve. I mean, in the end, we won the league as well, didn't we?
Yeah. And you know, we do a lot of the podcasts. I do another show with some radio thing, and the last word always is all about management.
Yes.
And Alan had a knack of not only bringing good players in, but good social players who would get on. You know, the only one that didn't really fit that mold was Bruce Rioch.
Right, I didn't know Bruce.
Yeah, he was the one at Derby, a bit of an outcast. He's the one that broke my leg at Derby. We never spoke. We never ever spoke. But we got on with the job.
Yeah.
You know. But your addition was obviously following Steve. And I joke about it with Steve. He was £1 million, one of the £1 million players at Man City.
Yeah.
Well, you thought it was the other way round when you came. You know, it really raised the bar on signings coming in. But
you know, Alan, one man don't make a team. I was around a bunch of players that supported me and helped me settle down and helped me on the field of play as well. But yourself, it was a pleasure, always a pleasure. Because as I said earlier, you was always if I was in stuck or tight position and that, you'd always be there to take the ball off me. and helped me out. And it's very rare I had that situation during my football career. And I'm not saying it because you're in front of me. I tell everybody the same.
I told you to say that, Ken, didn't I?
No. no.
How much money is
No, I know. I feel the same way. I mean, you know, certain players come on and people don't know. People used to knock the NASL and, you know, talk about the quality and everything else. And every time I came back to England, how's it over there? As much as you're playing park football, you know, or playing on a Sunday, and it was great, wasn't it? You know, there were some great players over there, unknown players, you know.
Yeah. Well, the night before, if you remember the night before the final, the Cosmos, so they were all in the toilet having a quick drag. And we'd had a few drinks, and that's the night I met Pele, which was unbelievable. Yeah, and it was just an incredible ride that we had. And at the end of the season, because I think the franchise was being sold to somebody else. Yeah, and I had to go downtown Seattle and meet them, and they asked me to stay, and I said yes, I would stay. But then it all fell apart. And then Man City rang up to see if I wanted to go back. Well, go to Man City. And Wolves also ran because Derek Dugan took over. And so I came back to England thinking I might be going back to America. But eventually the franchise broke down, and Derek Dugan offered me a new 2-year contract at Wolves. So I re-signed for Wolves.
How did you react to going back to Wolves after having such a good spell in Seattle?
I found it difficult because they're in the second division. They've been relegated. But fortunately, that first year I came back, we got promoted and back into the first division. I found it difficult to settle down because I'd had such 3.5 great months there, and my children enjoyed it as much as I did, I think. Well, my wife was superb. She looked after us all. So but we were going back to Wolverhampton, where my wife was from, and so her family was there, her mum and dad, and everybody else. So it was quite easy to settle down. But I was always thinking about Seattle Sounders and
it was
the achievement that we did.
Yeah, unbelievable. We were a bloody good team, mate. You know, we could take many teams over on in the first division here with that side there. I don't care what, you know, we were that good. But you know, when I first went, Jimmy Gabriel had the team, and they never give him any resources to bring better players in. They're all like ex-second division players, third division players, with no disrespect, you know. And then I got to be fair, my first season, I was made captain. I was the first signing like of that mould because I was out of work. I walked out in Arsenal, and to be quite honest, you know, we sit down, don't we, and we analyse our careers. We you know, as we get a little bit older.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought I could have done more. But where I've been out of the game for about 6 months, I thought I could have done more because Jimmy got the sack and Harry Redknapp got the sack. Right. When you think what Harry went on to do. And I thought I could have done more that year. I didn't play as well. And getting used to the AstroTurf and different grounds when on the road and all that. And then all of a sudden, Alan came in and got superior players. You know, as I say, Nishi, Roger Davis couldn't stop scoring goals.
No.
You know, he looked like a Brazilian at times.
No, he was great in the air, wasn't he?
Unbelievable. So it all, you know, but that was all because I put it all down to Ken, the management. You know, in games before going on the field, it was so relaxed, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. That's another thing that stuck out in my mind. The fact that everybody was relaxed, not uptight. I used to be a very nervous player before I walked onto the pitch. Once I got over the white line, I was fine. But I didn't have that feeling so much there because I just felt at home at times, you know. And, And with a lot of the English players around me. I always looked up to all these English players, and they supported and helped us a great. So it was just an amazing time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and the family loved it.
I've just called it up on the internet. You lost 1-0. Do you remember who scored the goal for Cosmos?
Giorgio Chinaglia.
He did lose 1-0, yeah.
He always scored.
Who was that, Alan?
Chinaglia.
Oh, Chinaglia. Oh, Chinaglia.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I met him 3 or 4 times, and I had a drink with him, and he was like, I used to love going up to the 2 captains go up. I used to love going up. It was like meeting the Godfather. He was the Godfather, wasn't he? And he had
Yeah.
that, and we played downtown one day in a pre-season friendly, and we were captain again, and it was just an ordinary kickabout in a college stadium, and it was a beautifully sunny day, and we went up to the middle, and he had the Cosmos banner, and he gave me the Cosmos banner. He said, "Nice to see you, Al," and I went, "Nice to see you." I said, "It's always a pleasure, Giorgio." I said, "But I ain't got nothing for you." So he went, I said, "Seattle are not New York Cosmos," and he went, "Have you got any family here?" I said, "Yeah, my son's over on the line." He said, "Call him over." So I called young Al over. Al come over, and he gave the banner to him.
Fantastic.
He said, "That's for you, son."
Fantastic.
He said, "If the club haven't got nothing for us, then that's for you." And Al had it at home. What happened to it? Like moving on.
Yeah.
But that should be in pride of place,
That's brilliant. Absolutely.
That's what kind of man he was. And he got kicked out of Swansea years ago. He couldn't get a game over, and he went over there and cracked it. The Italian connection, and
Yeah.
he was a real joy. And he died about 5 years ago, and I would love to have flown over for his funeral.
I didn't know that, Alan. I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, I look up things like, I always kind of look him up, and the memories of him being not like Bobby Moore, not only great at what they do, but great off the field, special people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yes.
There was also a very famous Brazilian in the Cosmos side. Do you know who it was?
The winger.
It was Carlos Alberto.
Did he play that day? He must have been captain, or no? Giorgio was captain that day, but
Giorgio
what a player he was.
Well, he's on the wall there, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's with Bobby Moore on the wall.
I tell you, he was a fantastic player, Alberto. I mean, I never really looked at the opposition too much. It was just a matter of how we were going to prepare and get out there and do the job that we were supposed to do. But we were unlucky in many ways. But we didn't play our best. It wasn't the best game we played in. But these kind of players that you're playing against, they were high class players. But it was a wonderful experience for me.
Well, I remember the first season I went there. I played at the Giant Stadium. Great experience.
You just been there. I think I came after that.
Yeah.
And I missed.
I remember Steve Hunt, who was in the England team.
Yeah.
Played for Coventry.
That's right.
He'd just been in the England team in England, and he couldn't get in the team.
Wow.
He was on the bench. That's how many players Cosmos had. Bogacivic and Neeskins and people like that, and you name it. Then Cruyff came and went. Beckenbauer came, and you're playing against these people, and they were messing about. He didn't go on holiday. They had a reputation to fulfill. And great experience, and it shows. Well done, Tone, for opening the show with that, because it was a really special time.
Yeah, it was. It was wonderful.
I was choked when I come home, mate. I didn't want to leave. They sacked me because I was on too much money. They sacked Alan Hinton because he was on too much money.
Right.
They came in the new, as you said, the new
franchise.
We had the Coluccios, didn't we? Vince Coluccio.
That's right. He used to come up to me. We used to walk out before the national anthem. The Coluccio used to come up and say, "Go get him, Kenny." I'll never forget that. I mean, I still tell the lads here now what he used to say. The Coluccios, because he had a brother, didn't he, as well?
Yeah,
but he used to say that
he went in goal one day in training, his brother.
Did he?
Oh yeah, made it right. He was worse than Mickey Ivanhoe. He was hopeless, But Vince came to New York one night. We beat New York, and was in the bar after, and he just went round dropping 100 bills on the bar, pay for that, and nobody could spend no money, No, but it hit him in the end. It was getting, the wage bill was going up, and I think his business got a bit in trouble, and he had to pull out. But he was a wonderful man.
Yes, he was. It was great. It was funny. It was so genuine. And I found he was a really nice chap.
Yeah, and what happened was, when I come back, I played under Ken Bates, so it was a bit different. So what are you doing now, Ken? You still?
No, I'm fully retired now.
What about the refereeing thing and all that?
Yeah, I did that for 17 years.
Yeah.
And I turned 70 and I got a phone call, 2-minute phone call saying thank you. And that was it.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
After 17 years, it's just what you want to hear, isn't it? And there were three of us all went after doing, just like that.
Well, it sums the game up. Sums the game up.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
Sadly.
I think I see you at Stoke one day assessing, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was covering up there, yeah. Robert Plant was there that day, I think.
Yeah.
Robert, Robert was there because he works at the Wolves a lot now, as you know.
Oh, I see him in a picture with you the other day in a Wolves kit.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
what he's one of the, like a president.
Yeah.
John Richards is he's just been appointed a president as well.
Right.
So they go to the games and they sell the cup. I mean, I get invited up there quite a lot. I've got a night with the fans coming up soon. So they keep me, interested. I take a group around the ground and stuff like that, which is quite fulfilling, really. Because they all want to talk about the 70s when we were quite successful. So it keeps me active, it keeps me young, and I feel young anyway. But I'm fully retired now, so I do things like this, and I love talking about the past and playing with great players. Mike Bailey, our captain, was a great player. He's got dementia really badly, which is very sad. But you've got to keep going, Alan, as we get the years keep flying by, and So I love talking. About the support, the football I had at Wolves in particular. That's where I was quite successful there over the period of 16 years. A couple of years at Coventry. We lost 3 FA Cup semi-finals when I was at Wolves.
Really?
Went to Coventry, and the year I left, they went and won the FA Cup the following year. Because the FA Cup is the one that I really wanted to get involved with in the final. But So we lost 3 at Wolves, and then I left, and then Coventry went on and won it the following year. I left. So
same thing happened to me at Arsenal.
Sorry?
Same thing happened to me at Arsenal. I played in the 78 final. I left Arsenal, walked out, and Arsenal went to Seattle, and they beat Manchester United in the final next year. the 2-minute final.
Oh,
do you ever see anything of our friend Daly?
Stevie, I'm with him all the time.
Oh, yeah.
We've done. We've had a year. Me, Steve Daly, and John Richards. We do the 3 icons.
Oh, lovely.
And we've been doing the Q&As around the pubs and clubs, and we also did 3 theatres, and each one was packed. Well, Stevie, as you know, was an after dinner speaker.
I heard how good he was, actually.
Yeah, he was brilliant, and absolutely. And he retired from that, so me and John do the more serious bits, and Stevie does the funny bits, and it seemed to complement each other. And so we've had a good year. We've had a good year doing that.
I wish I'd have known how to come up, mate.
I
really would have. I really would have. Yeah.
It was
funny. My first experience with Steve was we signed Steve, and his first trip was down to Santa Barbara for pre-season. He hadn't kicked a ball for us, and we were down in Santa Barbara. And strangely enough, it was where I was down in Santa Barbara when my Anthony was born in Seattle.
Wow.
And Alan, I'll go on the plane to go to Santa Barbara, and I said, Maureen's having a baby tomorrow. And he went, well, you can get off if you want. I said, no, you can have a baby anytime. You can't go to Santa Barbara anytime. So we went down to Santa Barbara.
Brilliant.
And we never used to do too many dead ball things, but we were doing something or other. And Steve was roaming around like he does. He's like a bit dizzy, isn't he? And I said to him, Steve, come here. So I went, where do you like playing most? What's your favourite position? Because we can adapt in midfield. You want to get ball, you want. He says, I don't know.
Oh, that is typical.
I said, never mind. Carry on. Do your own thing.
I mean, we sold it to Man City for £1 million, as you know, which was a lot of money when he moved.
Yeah.
And my wife's just come back. And he had a terrible time up there. When he got there, they sold all the experienced players, about 6 of them all went, and left Steve by himself, and he got a lot of stick from the fans. And going to Seattle got him really out of that mess that he was up there in. And poor kid, he went to hell and back.
Well, it was the wrong side at the wrong time.
Yeah.
It was. I heard that Allison was called into the boardroom, and they said, "Look, we're dropping so far behind Manchester United. We need to make a big signing."
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
It gets we got your £1 million. Go out and choose who you want. We got to catch them up, and
yeah,
it was the wrong signing at the wrong time.
I think you're quite right. I think you're right, Alan. Yeah, but it ruined his career for a long while, and going to Seattle brought him back to quality that he had. I played in midfield with him lots of times, and he was me, him, and Willie Carr together. You know, we sort of blended really, really well. And I was sad to see him go, but you know, when somebody comes in with an offer like that, he enabled him to make some money. But it was a shock when he got there and they sold all the experienced players. I think the guy was trying to build a young team, and it didn't work.
No.
You have to have some experience in there. You've got to have some quality in there. You can't just win anything with all the youngsters. That he was hoping to do to get, and so Stevie suffered through that, but Seattle was a way out of him.
That's why he didn't know his best position when he left Man City.
Yeah.
Kenny, can I ask you? You were at Wolves a hell of a long time. You played nearly 600 games, 17 years, I think it was. Did you ever have a chance, or was there ever an opportunity for you to move in that time that you turned down?
Well, there was a time when Bill McGarry told me on a Friday before we were playing Ipswich away that he'd had an offer and he'd accepted it. But I said, "We'll lose it from," and he didn't say. And I went out on the Saturday and I had a nightmare because it was in my mind. Who the heck is, why is it? And I think he told me on the Friday before the game, so I would have a bad game and he wouldn't be able to sell me. But no, the man. I mean, I to be fair, I don't know. That was the closest I'd heard of a club wanting to sign me. I know that later Newcastle wanted to get, because my brother was there on the left side. They wanted me up there to play on the right side. Yeah, but. Other than that, no. I mean, I was well happy at Wolves. I said 16 years. My family was there, all settled. And I mean, when the day came when they didn't want me, that was the day when I left in '86 to go to Coventry City. Financially, they were in trouble, and it was like, there's a contract, take it or leave it. And I said, well, I'll leave it. And I turned the Swindon Town player manager's job down to go to Coventry. And Lou McCarty got the job in the end at Swindon, because I wanted to stay in the game, being a coach or a manager. Yeah, and that came later in my career. But I had a wonderful time at Wolves. They took me as a 17-year-old from Bradford. Paid a lot of money, $5,000, and then the manager got the sack next day. Ronnie Allen signed me, got the sack next day. I'd already been under about 5 managers at Bradford in 2.5 years as an apprentice, and then he gets a sack, Ronnie Allen. Then Bill McGarry came in from Ipswich, But that and then it all took off. He gave all the youngsters a chance. Me, John Richards, Jeff Palmer, Barry Powell, Steve Daly. He gave us all. Bill McGarry built a strong young side there, and we were all lucky not to win a little bit more. We got into Europe. Got UEFA Cup final, playing Tottenham in the final. So it was a great experience, and Bill McGarry brought a lot of success to us, and he helped me with my career really take off.
I mean, you came into contact with a lot of what I would call football icons in your time at Wolves. I mean, you mentioned him earlier, Derek Dougan. What was it like having Derek Dougan around the place?
Well, Derek was a very experienced man, and he was the only. When I first joined, the first day I joined the club, we used to train in the bottom dressing room with the reserves and the juniors, the youth team, and the top dressing room with the first team. And we were coming down corridor to go and train on the pit, and he was the only senior player to come up to me. I was a 17-year-old snotty-nosed kid from Bradford. Nobody knew anything about it. And he came up and shook me hand and he said, "All the very best, young man." And he told me two things that my dad always said. He said, one thing, you listen to what people say and you work hard. And that's what my dad said to me when I was growing up, and that's what Derek Dugan said. So I had a lot of respect for Derek. And then, of course, I played with him, and he was very clever player. So I got a lot of admiration for Derek. And,
your dad probably told him that.
Oh well, yeah.
No, I knew Derek. I knew. I got very close to Derek in the end. We met at Utah to the races one night. The night we was in a tent and marquee, and Red Rum was there this night. We had photographs with Red Rum. It was a great night, and Derek was in there. And he fell through the tent. There's a big bowl of ice and all the drinks in there. And he went to reach for it. He went through the tent, which I thought before that, I thought his balance was pretty good on the football field. You know, it's like Charlie Cook would do something like that. You know.
Yeah.
But
he was
a
very
good player.
clever.
Good player.
Oh, he was very clever. Very clever.
Yeah.
He used to run into defenders when he knocked the ball past him and say, "Referee," you know, and he'd get a free kick for it. You know, he was very, very good in the air as well. When the balls came in from Dave Wagstaff, John Richards, myself in midfield, Mike Bailey, we'd pick all the bits up, and it was a really great time. And Molyneux was a fortress as well, you know. Yeah. And then they built that monstrosity stand away from the main pitch, and it cost them a lot of points. And
of course, he was responsible for first man to shave all his head off, wasn't he? You know, they're all doing it now.
Oh yeah, he did.
You know, where you had George Best running around and me running around, well, yourself running around with long hair and all that. And he's walking around. Look at him, look, and then now it's the in thing, isn't it?
It's no news now, is it?
No. So it was down to him. They should have a DD on the side of that.
Exactly. And then there was the curly hair stuff came in, didn't it?
Yeah. Alan Sunderland.
Yeah, Alan. Yeah, good player, Alan.
Yeah.
Looking back at your Wolves career, I mean, you obviously won the League Cup on two separate occasions, and Derek played in the first one in '74, didn't he?
Yeah.
Would you say those were the two highlights of your time at Wolves?
Well, they've got to be, because as a kid growing up, your ambition is to play at Wembley. I watched all the FA Cup finals on TV as a kid growing up. England winning the World Cup in 1966, when Bobby went up and collected the World Cup up them steps. And my dream, and my brother Terry, was also a dream for him to play at Wembley and walk up them steps one day. And of course, I was very fortunate. I did it twice. The first time in '74, my brother did it with Newcastle. He played in the FA Cup final in '74, and I played in the League Cup final. So we both had the opportunity to walk up them steps that we'd seen so many times with all the FA Cup matches and the World Cup. And I was very privileged and honoured and very lucky to be able to do that.
And 1 minute, Ken. 1 minute. Yeah. Someone will say hello. Can you hear that out?
Hello, Ken.
Who's that?
That's my son, Alan.
Oh, hello.
Oh, he's not on screen. He just phoned me up. I told him I was doing this. I just told him the story about you consoling him. Did he remember?
I can remember everything about it.
He remembers. I'll speak to you after, Al. So, mate.
Brilliant.
I weren't playing, by the way.
Was as good as you?
Sorry, just going back to Wembley in 1974, you scored the first goal as well, didn't you?
Yeah, 42nd minute. I always remember it. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people say that when I did the Q&As, they all say, "Well, did you miss it?" That I said, "Yes, I did. I sliced it." But McRae goal, I think he went for the power shot, and of course it lobbed over his shoulder. So it was a massive feeling. I mean, it's something that
not a bad place to miss it, one, Ken.
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, 42 minutes just before half time as well, Al. It was. And then my mother, I'd lost my father when he was 40. He had a heart attack, so he never saw me and Terry play as a professional footballer. But my mother was in the stand, and my name went up in lights.
Really?
When you score, you know, Alan.
No, I don't.
Yeah, but she had tears in her eyes all through the second half because she wanted my dad would have loved to see. And then Terry played in the FA Cup final later, so it was. I wish my dad had been there. Obviously,
Absolutely.
but it was a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Yes.
Yeah. Well done, mate.
When you got back to Wembley in 1980,
yeah,
with Wolves, it was almost a completely different team, wasn't it? I mean,
we were.
You had the likes of Andy Gray and Emlyn Hughes in that side.
Well, I did. We brought Emlyn from Liverpool. I was captain of the Wolves side then, and then we brought Emlyn in, and he took the captaincy off me. And my ambition was again to walk up them stairs, but lead the team up, you know.
Yeah.
But Emlyn was a great player, a great captain, and he'd never won the League Cup with Liverpool. And the first year they come to Wolves, we ended up winning the cup against Forest, who was European champions at the time, with a 1-0 win. And with Andy scoring the goal. And Emlyn walked up the steps, and all the time I'm walking up behind him. That could have been me. But he was such an influential player at Wolves, and he had a lot to do with our success for that season. But he was a wonderful player. It was my benefit season, and he supported me 100%. He was terrific, when he came to Wolves. He just lifted everybody as well. And then we had This Is Your Life, and we had it up in the gym, and my wife was sitting in there. She said, the way they were talking about, because he was a big horseman as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he said he's talking as though Red Rum's going to come through the door in a minute, and he bloody did as well.
Did he really?
Yeah, right from the back door up the steps, and yeah, I don't know how I did that, but
he was a
lot of good things.
He was well in with Princess Anne, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
I remember her burning on there one night. He was well in with her in the horse on the horse circuit. That's probably how it come about, Ken.
That's right, Alan. Yes, he was. Yeah. So great times.
And what about Andy Gray? What sort of impact did he have on that Wolves?
He's a big mate. He's a big mate of mine. Is Andy. We used to go on holiday together, and he was a bugger at times, but he brought into the dressing room that power of wanting to win, that feeling of, and they did it in five-a-side. And also, I mean, he was going to knock my head off one day because I nutmegged him in a five-a-side. I'm a big mate, and he nutmegged him. Of course, you laugh, don't you? When you nutmeg somebody, Al, it's a bit. He took it seriously. He said, "You do that again, I'll knock your head off." And then the final whistle, let's go. I said, "Come on, Eddie, let's go and have a drink." But that's how he was. He was so passionate about the game, and he brought that into our dressing room as well. So we did a Q&A with him about 3 weeks ago. He came over from Abu Dhabi. It was, and we did a night with me, him, and John Richards. So it was a great night, good fun, good player, great lad. Wanted to win everything: tiddlywinks, darts, snooker, anything you want. He was an outright winner, and he brought that into our dressing room. So I was glad he scored. But I'm glad he used his left foot and not his right foot when it brought to him. He only had a tap in. They're like, Andy, don't use your right foot, mate. And he hit him with his left foot, fortunately. But it's a great lad. He is great player.
We had one of those. Osgood was the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same, yeah. He didn't even think about losing and didn't think about the opposition, no fear at all.
None.
And it kind of gives you a great belief. And you don't really appreciate that till he don't play.
Correct. Absolutely. When they're not there, that's when you miss them.
Absolutely. And then someone who takes their place, as good a player they might be, they ain't going to be Osgood.
That's,
Yeah. And I remember one night we played in the Cup Winners' Cup, and we played in Belgium against a great Bruges team. And he was suspended for 8 weeks, I think. And he didn't play. And mate, they crushed us. They won 2-0. They could have won 8. Wow. Our goalkeeper John Phillips was out of this world. But the following Wednesday, we played him at the Bridge, and it was his first game back for 9 weeks. He scored 2 goals.
Wow!
And we knocked him out. But had he not come back, we would have been out.
Right. Yeah.
And that is when you tell, Ken, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's going back to management again. I can't believe the day section treated him like he treated him. You know, I'd have had him round for dinner once a week, you know, keeping me in a job, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and he won Chelsea 2 cups. It was no doubt about it. Take him out of the team, we wouldn't have won these medals, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Cup Winners' Cup and the FA Cup, that was all down to Oscar.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I played golf with Peter. I played golf with him once. Lovely man.
Cheats, didn't he?
I don't know about that.
Anything to win, Ken.
On the day.
I'm putting words in your mouth.
Isn't there? There's a bit of a Chelsea link for you, isn't there, Kenny? Because didn't you score your first ever goal at Stamford Bridge?
Correct. I made my debut there. I'm going back a long time now. Yeah, I made my debut at Chelsea, and we came down the old Chelsea ground where you come down this, and it was absolutely chucking it down. It was, I mean, it just pouring down, and the ball came in from a corner, and Peter Bonetti came out and he punched it to the edge of the box where I was, and I just thumped it with my left foot, and it skidded in the water, and it flew and just scraped in inside the post. That was
left foot as well.
Aye, you're right. What do you mean? Yes, left foot as well.
Great right one. The ball rolled down one, mate. The curler over the top, the curler around the corner with a right peg. Nobody's got 2 feet like that, Ken. Not even Puskas.
So that was a great feeling.
Well, I mean, that one in the Kingdom when you've got us through. I mean, that was some goal, unbelievable. It's so special to get you to the final. You know, you any goal will do. Run it in a semi-final, you know, but to get one like that, I mean, they played this so defensively. We kind of kept banging on the door. We couldn't get through.
Yeah,
and the ball come to you 5 yards outside the box, and just. So coolly clipped up. I've been trying that ever since.
We had a corner. We had a corner, didn't we? And I'd come to the edge of the box, and I got the plane inside on the right hand side going forward. Yeah,
brilliant.
And I took it on my left foot, and just.
Have you got that on film?
Somebody sent it. I don't know where it is now, but I have seen it, and
it's one for the kids, mate.
But the keeper were going for the cross, and I hooked it into the bottom corner, and he got a piece of it, as they say over in America. Unfortunately, it went in, and that was it. That was in overtime, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I everything went well for me, apart from the final. But I was surrounded by some great lads. I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
Can we touch a bit on your brief managerial career, Kenny?
Well, I was at Bristol Rovers when I went down from Coventry. I went to Bristol Rovers as player coach under Bobby Gould, and then Bobby left to go to Cambridge to Wimbledon, and Jerry Francis was part-time, and he came in as manager, and he asked me to stay with him as his assistant. So I had a good year with Jerry. I learned a lot from Jerry. And then Walsall manager's job came available, and that's where I wanted to go. I was 36, 37. I just broke my leg against Sunderland with a nasty tackle, but I won't go into that much. And I thought my career was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a manager, you know, and of course the opportunity came at Walsall. I asked Jerry if I could apply for it. He said yes, of course. And I went up to see them, and they offered me the job. In fact, John Barnwell had just been sacked, who was my manager at Wolves, so I was following him. So that was a hard baptism of my first managerial job. I had to get rid of all the older players, senior players who was on big money, from second division money down to the fourth division. So my remit was, you've got to get them all out, and at the same time they wanted results, and so I got him. Eventually I spent 4 years there. I got him in the playoffs, and we lost to Crewe in the playoffs, and then I fell out with the chairman. I think the fact that I might have been going to Wolves as assistant, and I didn't tell him, and I think he found out, and I had a bust up, and I said that's it. So I tidied my desk, and I came home, and then I took a year out. I'm going to take a year out. And 3-4 months later, Cardiff City came knocking on the door. So I went there, and I spent another 4 years there. Again, lost in the playoffs. But my remit again was exactly the same: get rid of the senior players, all this big money, and I had no assistant. I got no coaching staff. I was alone by myself doing all the scouting. I used to meet my wife at the motorways, and she'd bring me a coffee and sandwiches while I went off to see another player or watch the team. It was the hardest 8 years of my life. And then I left Cardiff. I signed a 5-year contract there with them, but I eventually, as director of football, and it wasn't enough for me. I like hands-on. I like to be involved, particularly at first team level. And so I left, and then I went in as I did the PGMOL. I got an offer to assess the referees, and I enjoyed that. I did work permits for the FA, so I did that for 17 or 18 years. So I've never been out of football since I was 15. So it opened my eyes a lot. But I do miss being in amongst the players on the coaching field and on the training field. Yeah. So, but now I've completely finished. My wife's very happy about that. She's been through hell and back, because I wasn't the best to live with when I was playing, and I were even worse when I became a manager.
I could with you doing that kind of job, wouldn't you have thought that in the modern day game that some people like yourself who've done, not only been a great player, but you've done the other side of it, management, whatever, don't have to be successful. Depends what club you're at. Would have been put down to do the VAR?
Yeah, I was there working when the VAR first started.
Was you?
Yeah, and we went to see how it was all going to be used, how it was going to be used, who were going to use it. But I was disappointed in the fact that there wasn't a player involved. You know, he could have sat round a player, and I still think having an ex-professional player or an ex-professional player manager or whatever he could be giving some advice. And you can see, I mean, they're very clever now, the players, Alan, aren't they? The foreign players are very clever at going over. They only have to blow on them, and it's very difficult for the referees and the officials to see this. But a player could see it.
Yes,
you could see it. I could see it. Any player could see it, and they could advise the VAR men. Look, he never touched him. He's gone down too easy. But they don't have that. They don't have that in place. Well, I don't think they do anyway. But
no, they don't. It's common sense, you know, the same as referees to a certain extent. But when it comes to VAR, when you stop the game for 5 minutes, if you can't sort, you know, it's just crazy. But where you and I could sit down and might be Oscar, but
yeah.
So they had no time, don't you?
Yes.
You know?
Well,
they just don't know.
No,
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's difficult. But it is what it is, I suppose. But whether you like it or not, it's in place. I think the goal line technology is the best thing that's come out. I think that is very helpful when the ball is in or out of play. And my wife just passed me a cup of coffee.
Very nice too. Very nice.
She kept underneath then, but
say hello.
Yeah.
My wife left a long time ago, Ken.
She's looked after me superbly. I've been very lucky, Alan. I've been very lucky. All my family, I've got a great family, and we all live pretty close together.
Great. So you'll have a good Christmas, mate.
We're gonna enjoy the Christmas. I'm not working anymore, so I can spend a bit more time with the family and friends. Yeah, wonderful. And I'd like you to have a great Christmas as well, Alan.
Yeah, I will, mate.
Thank you.
I'm 73, and I only know 72. I was in a coma for one Christmas.
Bloody hell.
Christmas, New Year. So I missed one Christmas. So I've certainly made up for it since.
Good on you. We're both 73. We're both same age.
Yeah.
But I'm 74 before you, I think.
Well,
January.
When was the last time you two saw each other?
I think it was when you was assessing at Stoke.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's going back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Must be.
But your name pops up, mate. Especially how great that season, Seattle, and I see Ray Evans the other week.
Oh yeah.
I went to Spain with him, and then he came over. You know, he got lucky as well. He's still over there.
Right.
He
Well,
wouldn't come back.
he was a good guy.
Yeah.
Give him my best wishes if you see him.
I will.
And then any of the lads that you see that we played out there with, is Paul Hammond still around?
And I don't know, mate.
No, goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think he's probably in some kind of lunatic asylum, isn't he? Hey, he was a crackpot, wasn't he? When he's had a few drinks.
Great.
Our little mate, we've lost our little mate battle. A few lads. I don't know. David Nish was always very quiet when he would go his own way and do his own thing, but I love Nishi as a player.
Yeah.
Was you there when Jack Brand, Mike Ivanhoe, come in to do a training?
No.
Jack Brand had this is how laid back it was, Tony. Jack Brand was missing one day, and we had a shooting practice, and Mike Ivanhoe was my mate. He was a second goalie. He was so overweight, he loved to drink, and that I tried to put him on a diet and you got to get back in the team, you know. Not that he was better than Jack. Jack was a German American, great goalkeeper. And we were shooting at Mike this day, and it was quite wet at Renton, and he was diving, he was getting up, and everyone saying, get up, you know, and all that. Next thing you know, an aeroplane's come flying by and scooped down low, and it was Jack Brand hanging out the aeroplane. He was taking flying lessons, and he was waving to us on the field. Oh, mate, what a time to get a lesson, yeah. And Ivanhoe looked up and he went, "Oh, amazing."
You will get me.
But that's how laid back it was. You know, nothing was a problem.
Great times.
Can we finish? It's been great having you on, Kenny. Listening to the.
Thank you for asking.
Can we finish off by we got to mention your brother Terry?
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about not having a left foot earlier. By goodness, Terry had a fantastic left foot, didn't he?
Yeah, I taught him all I knew about that. Well, growing up, we used to live in a house, back-to-back house it was, but in front of us was a bit of land, and we built 2 goals with wooden posts, and we put grass sods down, what you call it, a grass sod, put all that down so we could dive, and we were about 20 yards apart, and we used to play for hours and hours and hours, and he taught me how to use my right foot, and I taught him how to use his left foot. And because he was 3 years older than me, but we ended up both reasonably decent with both feet. But I kept reminding him that he only got a good left foot because I showed you, you know. And we used to have a lot of arguments before he passed on. But he was a wiry little thing, and he had a sharp temper.
I was going to say, you taught him how to argue as well, did you?
No, I didn't. He was an argumentative, you know.
I played against him in Newcastle, and he all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, he was an argumentative little guy.
Yeah,
but he was a great brother, and we both had a reasonable good career, and I miss him a lot. Because every time we got together, we had an argument. But we never had arguments. It was all just different of opinions, you know. Yeah, he's passed away a long time ago. But he was, he had a great left foot with Malcolm MacDonald. Him and Malcolm MacDonald worked really well up at Newcastle. And Bill McGarry tried to buy me when he went to Newcastle to play on the right side and Terry on the left side and balance it out. But it never materialised. But yeah, I miss him, and he was a bloody good player, but he never got really a chance at Leeds because they had such a good side there, and Eddie Gray was just like sitting on the left side of midfield, so he was never going to get a regular place there, and he had to move, and he went to Newcastle, and that's where he performed better, and he got the opportunity to show what he could do, and Newcastle were the club for him, and he loved it, and in fact, he turned Geordie, a Yorkshire lad turning Geordie. I couldn't understand him half the time. Yeah. It's an accent that he can easily pick up, and he picked it up very easily. And I said, "Will you talk bloody English or Yorkshire, for God's sake?" But He's and we played Newcastle at Molineux once, and we beat them 4-2. And I was very lucky enough to score all the 4. And walking off at the end, he came up to me. He gave me a right mouthful. But then as we were going down the tunnel, he said, "But if we're going to lose," he said, "kid," he said, "I'm glad you got the goals." And I'll never forget them comments that he had, you know. And he's gutted because we beat them, but yeah. So that always comes into my mind about that situation, you know.
Brilliant. Well, that's a lovely way to bring the podcast to a close.
Well, it's a great way to finish, and that's what I always think about the goal you scored in Seattle. I mean, we didn't win the final, but we got to the final.
Yeah. It's a great time, Alan.
Experience of a lifetime.
But you made it so easy for me for settle down as well on the playing side. And Stevie Daly helped me a great deal off the training ground, and so the lads was superb. They made me really feel at home. And if you see them all, if you see anybody, give them my best wishes because they helped me a tremendous amount, you know. And it's great. And thank you for inviting me on. It's a pleasure to talk to you, Alan. And let's hope I see you soon. Have a great Christmas and see you, Tony. Thank you for inviting me onto the show. It's been wonderful talking about the past. That's all I've got now. So,
well, what we do is in the new year we'll have you back on. We'll talk about the New England manager, maybe, Ken. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Anytime.
Because I think it's going to
go on. You carry on, Al.
No, because I think it's going to be interesting. I mentioned it. I did a show with Matt Letizia last week, and I said about Tucci's going to do great, and he did everything but hit me. He said, "We shouldn't have these people in English jobs. There's enough good English coaches." And that. I said, "I know, but come on. After the last one, come on."
Absolutely.
You know, so the new year, we'll get together and we'll go through the England team and the England manager in particular, Ken, yeah?
Okay, mate. No problem at all, Alan.
Because we both had managers that we don't like. Yes.
That sounds like another podcast for the future.
Absolutely. Have a great Christmas, Kenny. I've got to get to the doctors. I've got to...
Yes. Get yourself. I hope you're okay. You make sure you get well.
I will, mate. And it's great seeing you.